If you're a Canadian occupational therapist who is thinking about passing the NBCOT and wondering how to get there, this is the video for you. Today we'll be covering what most Canadian occupational therapists don't know about registering for the NBCOT, and very important details such as how to apply to even write the exam, how long you should study for, and what to expect on test day. This video is a series of NBCOT tips for Canadian occupational therapists who are thinking about moving to the States and unlocking more career opportunities. If we haven't met yet, hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Christina and I am the founder of 2 Canadian OTs, and I am a Canadian occupational therapist who passed the NBCOT on my first attempt. So today I wanted to share my experience and hopefully demystify the process a little bit so that this video helps you plan your move to the States as well. So let's start with my experience. I have my coffee here. I'll also be sharing a little bit of Karen, my co-creator of OT Passport to USA's experience, as ours are a little different, just to give you a sense of different examples. So when I decided that I wanted to take the NBCOT because I wanted to work in California, I wanted to work in Canada first. So I actually worked in Canada for about 7 months straight out of OT school before actually moving to the States. So knowing that I chose California as the first state to work in, which I don't know if I would choose California again, but we can get into that in another video as my first state. I had quite a wide window of study time because California is like notorious for being one of the longest states to get your OT license in. So I was working full-time at a hospital, but I used all my time off work and on my lunch breaks to study for the exam. I think in total I spent about 3 months studying for the exam, and 3 months, give or take 2 hours a day. And the top resources I used were the Purple Book. It is my holy grail. If you've met me before or chatted to me before or been to one of our 2 Canadian OT workshops, you will know that I swear by this Purple Book. This Purple Book, I read it while on a bus to Edmonton because Edmonton is where I scheduled my actual test date. But this Purple Book all it is practice questions, and the answer key includes the answers, but it also includes the rationales. So rather than memorizing the answers, I studied the rationales because I wanted to know how the NBCOT thought. I wanted to know how the NBCOT thinks. And in my experience, after writing both the Canadian exam and the American exam, I realized that the Canadian exam was more client-centered. And again, it's not like we receive our scores in terms of which questions we got right and which questions we got wrong. But when I was studying for the Canadian exam, I found the correct answers, or based on practice tests or whatever I was doing, were always the client-centered answer. Whereas for NBCOT, there were a lot more medically based questions. There were a lot more facts. There were a lot more clearly correct answers, which honestly is to your benefit. I remember taking the Canadian OT exam and I was like, well, this answer sounds pretty good. So does this one, and so does this one. But when I took the NBCOT, I was like, this is definitely wrong. So the power of deduction went in my favor. So that's my experience. Karen's experience was a little different. She decided to take the Canadian exam and then take the NBCOT exam shortly after and then move to the States. She actually has never worked in Canada for an OT, and we started 2 Canadian OTs back in 2019. So that is crazy to me. And I believe she only took about a month of study time. But I think the difference here is that she was able to dedicate a solid month without working, without learning a new job, all that kind of stuff. Whereas I was working and studying, so my timeline was broken up a little bit. And over the years, we've helped several OTs work in the States and get their ducks in a row. And the timeline varies. I would say 1 to 3 months is pretty standard. Some OTs might take 6 months. I don't personally think you need that long, just because the quicker you pass the exam, the quicker you have that credential, and the quicker you can start working and making money in the state. So 1 to 3 months on average is what we recommend for a general study timeline. Okay, let's talk about the differences between the two exams, just high level in terms of like how many questions, how many hours. You can look that all up online. And I know we touched on the client-centered versus factual, but I just want to paint the picture of like, where can you even take these tests? So currently at the time of this video, you can take the test in Canada through any Pearson test center. When Karen and I took the exam, it was through Prometric, but I don't think this will skew things too much. You just have to go on Pearson's website and search locations near your area that you can take the test. I was living in a really small town at the time, so I did have to get on a long bus ride to take the NBCOT exam, but it was totally worth it. And the exam, I believe, was 4 hours long. It was mostly multiple choice, but the key difference was these clinical simulation questions, and also the test was on a computer. The test center that I went into, it's not like the Canadian OT exam with your classmates. You are all like mostly all there at the same time and then panicking at lunch and then coming out. The test centers, you'll be at this test center where there's people taking other standardized tests. Not everyone is there to take the NBCOT, and the NBCOT is offered quite frequently throughout the year, so you don't have just like 1 to 3 chances of taking it. If you don't pass the first time, you can take it again. You'll have to pay, but you can take it again. So it's sit down at a computer, multiple choice, highly recommend, basic advice, but like have a good breakfast that morning, be hydrated, take advantage if there's any. I remember there being like, I think it was like a 5-minute break or something, just to like stretch and move around, that kind of thing. But the main difference was the clinical simulation questions. So I think there were 3 of these when I took it. So they will kind of like present a scenario, like you are with client A and her daughter, who is 4 years old, she starts crying because she doesn't know how to tie her shoes. What do you do? And then it will give you like 4 options of what you do. And then based on what you pick, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Based on what you pick, it will then tell you, like, the result will be different. So if you're like, don't do this, but if you're like, tell the mom to tell her daughter that she's being a baby. Again, that would be the wrong answer. But say if you pick that one, then it will be like, the mom looks at you and storms out. I don't know, for example, but it's just kind of a choose your own adventure. And there are 3 of these, and I don't fully understand the scoring because you might kind of, say if you pick the wrong first option, but then you kind of course correct, I just think you get an amount of points depending on what correct options are. And I don't remember if there was much weight to these, but this test structure we weren't familiar with in OT school. So if you have any NBCOT resources that allow you to also practice the clinical simulation test examples, highly recommend practicing those as well. Another book I used was the Therapy Ed textbook. This book is a brick, but it is a very good just like index in general of treatment planning, all those kinds of things. I didn't go through it like every single page at all. I just had very specific niche items I wanted to study. And we have a free guide on how to register for the NBCOT and our recommended study resources. So you can download that below. It will kind of walk you through what to study that's different from OT school in Canada that you learned and you might know already versus some gaps in your knowledge. And again, what most Canadians don't know about the NBCOT is that you actually have to apply to write the test. You cannot just go on like Pearson's website, search NBCOT, and then schedule a test date. It's not that simple. You actually have to apply to write the test. And this involves asking your school for your transcripts. So you do have to have like your completed transcripts. You do have to finish the program before you can even write it. So you have to send your transcripts to NBCOT. They have to verify that, okay, you are eligible to write the test. And once they verify that you're eligible to write the test, then they will send you an authorization to test letter, and it will tell you that you're eligible to write the test, but it's within a 3-month window. So just keep that in mind when mapping out your timeline. If you're giving yourself a month to study, 2 months to study, 3 months to study, like, when do you want to write the NBCOT? Because that will affect like when you apply to write it. Like in Karen's example, she applied to write the exam basically immediately after graduation because she was just kind of settling into study mode and giving herself a month. For me, because I knew California would take forever to process, I didn't really have much thought of the window. I just got my paperwork in there and it all worked out. So I hope this video has helped you kind of demystify the process. Again, if you want more tips on how to actually register and what to study, you can download our free guide below. Also, when you download our free guide below, we will also be sharing how to save quite a bit of money on exam fees. That is kind of hidden. And I'm scared to say it in this video because I don't want NBCOT to sue me. So if you get on our mailing list, we'll tell you what the little birdie OTs are telling us. Just so you know, there are 2 ways that you can work with our team. One is joining our OT Passport to USA program. This is a self-paced course that takes you through the timelining, the planning, the logistics, everything you need to know for working in the States and preparing for your move, all those kinds of things. And the second way is through our agency match program, where we can match you with an agency and recruiter who are trained in hiring Canadians, because the nuances are very different. Most therapists will choose both. They'll go through our OT Passport to USA program first, and then they'll decide to sign up for a match program. The OT Passport to USA program is a paid course. Our recruiter/agency match program is free because the agencies cover that partnership fee because they value the training that we bring to Canadian clinicians, and the agencies that work with us know that they're getting a prepared Canadian clinician. And likewise, the OTs and the PTs that work with us in the agency match program, they know that they're being paired with an agency that has experience in hiring Canadian OTs and making sure the process runs smoothly. So all of that will be in all our other videos. Good luck to you on writing the NBCOT. Again, our free guide is below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.